Get ready. Get set. It's time for the Basement View. Hey, what's happening? How's it going? How's it going? It's Monday, the 21st of April. God damn, getting on down the road. Hey, y'all know when I'm laughing off the bat, you know something went on. So, wow. What a day. What a day. What a day to be alive. It's me. And this is the Basement View. How's it going, everybody? I hope everyone had a good weekend. If you're listening, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe. And do the damn thing. So, the big old news, of course, the Pope has passed. What's up, James? The Pope has passed away. Prayers go out to the Pope. I'm not Catholic, so, and from what I understand of the Catholic Church, you know, I'm not really a fan of the Catholic Church. So, and that hierarchy system that they have. So, that's just me. I gotta tell you, you know, this social media stuff. Hey man, every day when I go and look on some social media a little bit, somewhere here or there, just to get a quick laugh. And today I came across several things that just caught my attention. First, one of the things that caught my attention, and it made me think of two stories. I saw two stories on social media that brought me to two stories that happened in real life. Okay? And, hey, what's up, Charles? And I'm gonna play clips from both of these stories. And you brothers would get a kick out of this shit, okay? Since it's me and some brothers, we're gonna talk about this, okay? All right. So check this out. I'm just going to get right into it. Okay. Y'all some rational brothers. Listen at this story this is the first one. And when I get through playing this story, I'm going to talk about another story that I happen to know about that actually happened in real life. Okay? So check this one out. This is the first one.
New details today in the gruesome death of a Connecticut woman just 3 days after Katie Linney's body was found chopped up into dozens of pieces. Her death has now officially been ruled a suicide. Officers entered Ms. Linney's home at approximately 12:30 a.m., where they found 59 pieces of her remains scattered throughout the bedroom, kitchen, and garage, leading authorities to conclude this was a, quote, open and shut case of suicide by dismemberment.
Upon entering the residence garage, responding officers located Miss Linney's disembodied head in the trunk of the deceased vehicle. This is when it became immediately clear that Miss Linney had tragically taken her own life.
Autopsy results determined Linney used a combination of weapons to end her life that included a kitchen knife, machete, and bone saw, all of which police recovered from a pond approximately 20 yards away. Now, authorities have been unable to inform Linney's fiancé, Michael Rittinger, who has been grieving in Tijuana since the day after Linney's death, but they hope this update can help bring closure to all who cared for the late Catherine Linney.
Miss Linney did not leave a written suicide note behind, but she did call 911. which we believe was a solemn farewell to those she loved, which we will now play.
911, what's your emergency?
He's trying to kill me!
Clearly, she was not well.
We here at ONN would like to take a moment to remind our viewers that if you or anyone you know has been struggling with thoughts of chopping off all your limbs and throwing your torso in a dumpster, we urge you to contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Coming up next, a breakthrough in cancer research. Hear why doctors now believe medicine could be the key.
Hey, fellas, check this out. Now, here's the funny part. Okay, now y'all heard that story. All right. Now, I don't know who remembers this. But tell me if either of you heard of this before. Some years back, it was in the 90s. Had to be in the 90s because, let's see, I'm trying to think of what department I was in the mill. Hey, Charles, you say you ain't never heard nothing so crazy? Check this out. Yes, you have. You have heard of something so crazy because you had to be around in the 90s, too. Back in, man, I remember talking about it. I think I was in the locomotive shop at the steel mill at the time in that department. And there was a story out of Portage. Now tell me if this don't ring a bell. Remember, there was a guy that they found dead with a hammer laying next to him. And they determined he had committed suicide by hitting himself in the head 31 times. Now, this was out of Portage, okay? Now, I'm sure somebody out there remember this story. They ruled it a suicide out in Portage, Indiana. And I remember, we talked about it back then. It was like, wait a minute. 31 times? You hit yourself in the head 31 times with a hammer. So, hey, we gotta do better at these crime labs, right? You remember that, James? Hey, and trust, hey man, that was literally in the newspaper. That's where I got it from. The coroner actually ruled it a suicide. And we talked about it on the job. And was like, what the heck? Charles, you don't remember that. Well, hey, you might have, may not have been paying attention back then, but it was an actual story out of the newspaper. And the coroner out in Portage ruled the man a suicide. Okay? And I was like, oh my goodness. And see, at the time when I read it, I thought to myself, well, I could hit myself in the head one time. And I could see a guy hitting himself in the head more than one time, maybe 2 or 3 times, if you just that crazy. But you know what's going to stop a person from hitting himself in the head a whole bunch of times? And this is something that I determined personally. This is something that I came up with myself. Now, listen up, and you tell me if this don't sound right. Okay. While you might hit yourself in the head more than one time, I guarantee you will stop the minute you hit yourself in a spot that you already hit once before. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. I guarantee you, you can hit yourself all over the head. But the minute you hit a spot that you hit once before, you're going to put that damn hammer down. You're not going to get the 31. Okay? So there you have it. And I when I saw that, I immediately went back to that time. And I'm like, whoa. I said, here we go again. Here we go again. Okay, I told y'all I got 2 stories. Okay? I got another story for you. And again, when I tell my story is a true story. Now, I don't know. You know, social media is a motherfucker. Okay? So, that's it. Listen to story number 2. Once you hear story number 2, I'm going to follow it with a true story. Check this out.
Took my baby mama to Atlanta, went to a swingers club and turned up. This big black 6'6" muscle head came over and wanted to join them. I had to agree because that's what we talked about beforehand. This was both on our bucket list. This dude pulled out an elephant trunk. I told him, you're not putting that in my girl. This heifer said, I want it.
She's gagging for it. You just have to sit there and accept it.
Oh.
You man.
Oh, that would
rock me.
That would kill me. I took the hardest swallow and said, okay. I had to watch my girl get slaughtered. I even went over there while he was doing it and rubbed her forehead to tell her it'd be okay.
Slaughtered.
Okay. Now I don't know if either of y'all are swingers, but I got a story for y'all. Now this is a true story. All right. There used to be a nightclub called Miss Lee's. It was out there on just before you get to Ridge Road off Georgia. Now, this was a nice little out-of-the-way spot. And every now and then, they would have strippers. Okay? Now, this is not a story about being a swinger. But this particular story that actually happened to me, that just reminded me of it. Okay? So back during that particular time, I was sitting there at Miss Lee's. Man, met a nice looking girl. Nice looking girl. So I'm shooting my shot. And she interested. And we talking. And anybody that ever went to Miss Lee's, you know, they would have male strippers at one moment and then female strippers at another moment. And, you know, in the same night. I had some for both sexes, same night. So, me and the old girl, we talking. Now, the female strippers is out there, and they doing their thing, and I'm trying to holler at old girl. And we chatting it up real good, everything flowing smooth. I'm like, yeah, this going on. You know, I buying a couple of drinks, and we talking. Yeah. So the female strippers off, now the male strippers out. Now they bring out these beefcake motherfuckers and they walking around through the crowd. Well, this motherfucker looked like he was about 6'4", built. He walks over, and he's got the typical stripper outfit on, and he had what looked like a goddamn elephant trunk and a sock hanging off the front of him. Well, check this out. He started dancing in front of the woman I'm talking to, and he grabbed that thing and he shook it at her like that in her face, and she did like that. And that motherfucker didn't hear another word I said all night. She didn't hear not one more word that I said. The rest of the night, I had to get up. I just got up and went home, man. I was like, oh, man, I know that dude didn't just do that to me. But I mean, he did that. And she said, oh my goodness. The woman didn't hear another word I said all night. Not one more word. I said, well, all right then. I done lost this one. Go on, pack it in. Carry your ass on home. And that's what I did. So, it is what it is. That story there reminded me of that. I wish I could see that girl right now. I'd love to ask her if she remember that. Like, they didn't have to do me that way. So, anyway. How y'all doing this evening, man? Everything good with y'all? Just out of curiosity. See, we made it through the weekend. Back in the 50s, of course. And, I suppose somebody's supposed to turn the switch on tomorrow and make it 70. So, I guess we'll find out. Say I should have shook mine at her. Hey, Charles. I was embarrassed enough, man. I wasn't gonna do that shit. I was already embarrassed enough. You wanted me to commit suicide. Shoot. Nah, man, it wasn't going down like that, Charles. So, that was my trip back down memory lane for right now. I gotta tell you, I had to laugh my ass off when I saw these stories today, cause that brought back that memory like it was yesterday. I can even remember her face. I wish I could see her today, just to find out if she remembered that. But that. Hey, Lisa, what's happening? How y'all doing? Hey, and it ain't no problem. I was just telling my crazy ass stories from back in my life, you know. Trying to get her to regain her attention to me. So you wanted me to make her laugh, right? Charles, you wanted me to make her laugh, huh? Get her attention back on me. She'd have been like, this mother got jokes. Yeah, that would have got everybody attention, man. That would have turned into a comedy, or one of those comedy tragedies. Hey, Carmen, what's happening? I hate y'all late. Y'all missed a couple of good stories. At least I thought they was good stories, you know. They were true stories that happened to me. And y'all know from time to time I'm subject to tell a story that happened to me. I got 1,000,000 of them. Okay? I got 1,000,000 of them. My life has been one big story. Okay? So, and yeah, hey James, that would have been a lost cause. Cause my man, let me put it this way. Okay. You know, when it's no, it was not worth trying it. No, it was not worth the try. Not at all. You know, if you'd have saw what that brother shook in that woman's face, hell no. It was not worth the try. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I swear, I wish man, I wonder if I was there. Nah, I usually went by myself, so I wasn't with anybody at the time. But boy, I tell you, funny stuff. So anyway, I'd like to pivot right now and kind of talk about the fact again with what's going on with these deportations. We know that the Supreme Court stepped in at midnight, Friday night. I believe it was midnight Friday night, to stop the deportations. By the way, hit that thumbs up for me and ring that bell, subscribe, do all that stuff. The Supreme Court stepped in Friday night and stopped the deportations for right now because they were about to deport another couple of busloads to this prison. Now, the order that they already had said that from that point on, any deportees had to have prior notice and some due process. Well, like I said, like I was telling y'all, the order said that they have to facilitate. And soon as that came out, this administration decided the hell with that order. They gave these deportees 24 hours notice to get counseling. And it was written in English. Now, where would these deportees get counseling in 24 hours after getting a written notice that they can't read? Okay. Now, the order from the court said that they had to give them notice and give them enough time to get counseling and have a process go in front of a judge. This administration ignored that, which is why the ACLU jumped in, filed an emergency case. The Supreme Court stepped in, stopped the deportations for now. Look, don't send nobody else nowhere, because you're bullshitting. That's where we are right now. All right. Now, I thought I may have heard that there was another ruling. I'm not sure. But over the weekend, Jonathan Karl had an interview with Tom Homan, head of ICE. I'm going to play a little bit of that interview and show you how this man dodged the question. Yeah, papers. Yeah, we need to see your papers. Well, you know what? They doing that at the airports now. They doing that to American citizens coming back into the country. So if you plan on leaving the country, you may want to wait a minute. Because they literally detaining people coming back in to the country. But I'm going to play a little bit of this interview and listen at Tom Homan answer to these plain, simple questions. Okay? All right. Let's check it out.
Just hours before the Supreme Court stopped the administration from deporting a group of Venezuelans using the centuries-old Alien Enemies Act, the president's border czar was fiercely defending the law's use. I spoke with Tom Homan Friday and began by asking him about Senator Van Hollen's meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Senator Van Hollen has obviously got a chance to meet with him, but he had to travel to El Salvador to get any information. Does that concern you at all? I mean, these are people sent by the United. I mean, in his case, sent by the United States, and not even a U.S. senator could get any information about his whereabouts or the condition of his incarceration without actually going down and making the trip to El Salvador himself.
Well, he obviously knew his whereabouts because he went there to see him. But you know what bothers me more than that is a U.S. senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayer dime to meet with an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat terrorist. I mean, in the meantime, the day before he traveled, an illegal alien was arrested for murder, released to the streets rather than honoring an ICE detainer in his very own state. What concerns me is Van Hollen never went to the border the last 4 years on Joe Biden when he had a 600% increase in sex trafficking in women and children. You have a record number of no-inspected terrorists crossing that border. You had 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl overdose because of the open border. You had over 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey, which is a historic record.
Okay, let's stop that right there. Now, what part of that was the answer to that question? Okay? Other than the smart aleck remark that he made about, well, he must have knew where he was at. He went down to see him. Yeah. But all the rest of that didn't have nothing to do with the question. And hey, at least you say you're supposed to go to Japan in December. Well, you better take some pale face spray paint or something with you. Or carry something with you to prove you belong here. But yeah, this man, he just, the heck with what the question was. He's going to start talking about everything else. And that's the thing about what happens on these shows. You ask the guy a question, and he starts answering all this other fluff about who came across the border, who died on fentanyl, the heck with. See, the one thing that they want to ignore is the words due process. That's the only thing anybody's concerned with here. Due process. Now, there are laws. Say, old boy was looking at him like, where did all that come from? I'm just saying, yeah. That's exactly how he was looking at him. And rightly so. Because, and thank goodness, after watching it, the whole interview, I was sitting there, and Jonathan Carr didn't let up on him. He actually stuck to it. He didn't let up. But, see, we already have laws that allow you to deport people here illegally. You send them to immigration court. The court says, you got no business here. Get on back to your country. That's simple. And Donald Trump today, he let it out in a tweet, like he always does. He just can't help himself. He said today, being upset with the Supreme Court for taking the case, he said, you can't give everybody a trial. Did you hear me? He said that would take 200 years. You can't give everybody a trial. That's where he's trying to go. That is where he's trying to go. You just can't make this stuff up with this guy. This guy is incredible. I'm going to play another clip from that conversation right quick. Check this out.
He says that he has done this because it's the issue here is due process, and it's following a court order. The Supreme Court has said that the administration needs to facilitate his return so he could have his chance at due process.
I think, and I understand to facilitate, but he's also in custody. He's a citizen and national of the country El Salvador. El Salvador would certainly have to cooperate in that. But again, I'm on the loop on that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not litigating this case. We'll do whatever the law says we have to do. But I think I stand by the fact I think we did the right thing here. We removed a public safety threat, a national security threat, a violent gang member for the United States. ICE intelligence says he's an MS-13 gang member. A confidential informant says he's an MS-13 gang member. The country of El Salvador says he's an MS-13 gang member. I think he's exactly where he should be.
But you said that the El Salvador would have to cooperate. You have no doubt that if President Trump wanted him returned, that he could ask President Bukele to return him, right? I mean, President Trump could make this happen.
I can't comment on something I don't know. I can't comment.
What do you think? I mean, you know President.
I'm not involved in.
I mean, you know President Trump. You've talked about how, he can get things done. I mean, if he wanted the guy returned, he could get him returned, right?
I do. I'm not going to comment on conversations I'm not a part of. I don't know what conversations they're having, who's having what conversation, what officials. I'm not in the loop on that.
Now, if you believe one word of what this bastard just said, that he is not in the conversation. Now, he's the chief of deportations, but he's not in the conversation of whether this man should be brought back or not. And he doesn't know what President Trump can and can't do. That is enough to make you sick. It's enough to just plain make you sick. Anyway, the dude is just a liar. He's just a liar. Plain and simple. I think Wednesday I'm going to play a little bit more of that conversation, because you just got to hear this guy. You really got to hear this guy, because he is undoubtedly just amazing. Just amazing. You know what? I'll play a little bit more right now. Let's have a little bit.
So more broadly, let me ask you. I know you're a law guy. You've sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution. You did that through your entire career. The general principle I want to ask you is: do you agree that the Constitution extends those constitutional rights that we all have extend to every person in the United States? Every person, no matter what crime they're accused of, or no matter their legal status.
And we have followed the Constitution. We have followed the law. I am confident that everything we've done is follow the law and is within the constitutional constructs. Absolutely.
And so that right of due process is something, the Fifth Amendment right of due process extends to everybody who would be deported. Well, they have a chance to have a hearing on this.
The length of due process is not the same under the Alien Enemies Act. That's why the Alien Enemies Act was created. President Trump invoked the authorities he had of the Alien Enemies Act, an act written and passed by Congress and signed by a president. We're using the laws on the books, the statutes on the books, to secure the border and remove significant public safety threats and national security threats to this country.
But let me get more specific on this. The Supreme Court has long held that constitutional rights extend to every person in the United States. Justice Scalia, a majority opinion that he wrote back in 1993, wrote, "It is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process in law in deportation proceedings." Are you saying that by invoking the Alien Enemies Act that undocumented immigrants are not entitled to those due process rights under the Fifth Amendment?
Well, I'm saying the procedure under Alien Enemies Act is less than it is during a Title VIII removal proceeding, and we're following the rules of the Alien Enemies Act. Again, I think this administration has followed the law. They're using statutes enacted by Congress, signed by a president, to remove the terrorists from this country. I'm not saying, I'm not arguing right here that nobody should get due process. I'm just saying there's a different process under the Alien Enemies Act, less of a process than you see through Title VIII.
Let me ask you, do you have any qualms about sending people to that notorious prison in El Salvador with no assurance that they will ever have a chance to get out? People that have no record, have not been convicted of any violent crimes. Do you have any qualms about that?
I believe we're removing public safety threats and terrorists, designated terrorists, to that prison in El Salvador. Tren de Agua MS-30 is a designated terrorist organization. What you don't know, what most readers don't know, they haven't seen the experience what I've seen in my 40 years. I started in Border in 1984. I've talked to young girls, young as 9, that were raped by members of these gang cartels. I've held dead bodies throughout my career. I've talked to 100 angel moms and dads whose children were killed and brutally murdered by members of MS-13 who just didn't kill them. They mutilated them. They tortured them. So if people wore my shoes for the last 40 years and seen the travesties I've seen, they would understand that the worst of the worst need to be sent to a prison like that, because we got to protect American citizens. We got to protect this country.
And you're saying there's no mistakes? No mistakes, that everybody's sent to this prison, again, with no guarantee of any right to have a chance to challenge their imprisonment, any prospect of release. And they didn't go through a full, and none of these people, as you've acknowledged, have gone through a full trial.
You need to read the Alien Enemies Act. We follow the Alien Enemies Act, and you're talking like it's a Title VIII removal. It isn't a Title VIII removal. That's a different procedure.
Yeah, so you're acknowledging without
Congress, without an Enemies Act.
So no extended proceedings, no chance to prove their innocence.
No chance to prove you innocent. No chance to prove you innocent. First of all, I didn't know you were supposed to have to prove you innocent in America. I thought it was the other way around. I thought they had to prove you were guilty. Now, somebody correct me if I'm not right. Somebody let me know if I got a problem with this, because I thought you had to be proven guilty of something before you were sent to a prison. But now, not only do you have to prove you innocent, but we're not even going to give you the opportunity to do that. You're not even going to get the chance to prove you're innocent. Now, this man also immediately started talking about his experiences over 40 years. That's not the problem of these people you throwing in buses today. See, it sounds like he pissed off about shit he done seen over 40 years. Now he talking about the victims he done talked to, the women that's been raped. And you want to blame these people that you send into El Salvador for all of that. Now, if these guys are those kind of guys, they deserve to go to a prison. You know, I would even argue, I don't know where you get paying a country for the use of their concentration camp, because that's what this prison is. You know, you remember Nazi Germany when they sent the Jews to the concentration camps? That's a prison where you get no due process. You don't get to talk to anybody. You don't get to do nothing. You just there. You in another country. Let's understand something. Remember, Germany had concentration camps in Poland. Okay? They sent people from Germany to Poland. All right? Like America sending people to El Salvador. This is what's going on. And again, see, everybody's getting caught up on this particular guy. Okay? It's not the guy. If the guy is a guilty guy, and let the guy have a trial and be convicted. Well, hey, James, you're absolutely right. In a rational administration, the process does work. You're absolutely right. And understand the purpose. Like I was saying before, what this administration is doing is trying to move the border. That is the law. The law says due process, whatever the end of that due process is, then you proceed. See, they're moving the border to not include due process. This man just called them terrorists. He said confidential informants called that man MS-13. El Salvador called that man MS-13. Well, you can get a wino coming out the liquor store to call him MS-13 for a bottle of wine. You see, how about let me hear a judge determine he's MS-13 after you take some evidence to court. Even the court system has said, you have provided us with no evidence that this man was a gang member. That's straight out of the court. Where's your evidence? All they keep saying is somebody said. They haven't taken one bit of evidence to court. Okay. So that's just that guy. But the process itself. Trump says you can't give everybody a trial. He literally tweeted that today. You can't give everybody a trial. I beg to differ. Where does he get that shit from? You can't give everybody a trial. And you have people in that party sitting there on their ass listening to that just because they scared of him. Just because they scared of him. Now, Lisa Murkowski spilled the beans last week. She spilled the beans. Just came out and said, we all scared. Point blank. We're all scared. He's got them all afraid to do anything. And it is their job to stop him. It is their job to stand between him and the American people. And they're not doing it. So, it's in the hands of the Supreme Court right now. It's in the hands of the Supreme Court. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out if John Roberts is going to side with this maniac. This maniac that has decided that it is his decision if you're a criminal. It is their decision if you're a terrorist, if you're a gang member. We decide whether you are or not. You know? And that just means we just tell people you are and we ship you off. We tell people you're a gang member, we throw you in a van, throw you in the airplane, ship you to another country, into a concentration camp where it is estimated you will never get out. Because there was no trial, so there's no parole, there's no sentence. The only sentence is you there now. And we are paying for it. You using my tax dollars to pay El Salvador to take care of these people from now on. They got their own young dictator down there who done opened his own particular concentration camp. He proud to death. I got this concentration camp here in El Salvador. Wonder what the people of El Salvador are thinking. That's got to be crazy. Hit that thumbs up for me and ring that bell. If John Roberts doesn't side with Trump, he'll be disappeared. Well, I hope they ain't disappearing people yet. I hope they not. But I hope John Roberts understands, and I kind of think they do. But there were 2 justices on the court who didn't want them to take the case. Which 2 were they, you say? Yes, the usual suspects. Yes, that too. Alito and Thomas. Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas. They had a problem with the court taking that case. It was the wrong time of night. We ain't supposed to take cases in the middle of the night. So they saying they should have let them ship them on off. And then we'll talk about it tomorrow. If that ain't cold-blooded. Yeah, Charles. Dirty, dirty. Absolutely. Just ship them off and we'll talk about it tomorrow. That was Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito's position. So, right now, it's in the hands of the Supreme Court. And we'll see what happens. So, one other thing before I get out of here. One other thing. Remember how I kept saying that I do not think they made a mistake when they sent that young man that they had to know had a protection order from the court not to be deported. They had to know that he had this protection order before they ever sent him over there. So they couldn't go into court and say it was a mistake. It was an accident. They did that just so they could say they didn't deny a court order. They didn't ignore a court order. They had to go in court and lie and say, oh, that was a mistake. Check this clip out that I found today. From today's Nazi. This is Trump's Nazi. What was the one? Heinrich Himmler. Heinrich Himmler, that's the one. This is today's version of Heinrich Himmler.
This is Article 2, foreign powers, in any way whatsoever. DOJ called me after that Supreme Court ruling, and they said, this is amazing. We won this case 9-0. We are in excellent standing here. So this has been portrayed wrong for 72 hours in the media. They said the most a court could ever compel you to do would be to facilitate return, which would basically mean if El Salvador voluntarily sends him back, we wouldn't block him at the airport. We would put him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either back to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court said that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay,
Secondly,
I appreciate
he was
the
not, no, Bill's
clarification,
important.
that's the case.
He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador.
Okay, so do you
Did you hear what he just said? He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador. That was Stephen Miller, Trump's assistant office manager. He got on Fox and admitted it was not a mistake that they sent this man to El Salvador. I knew it. The man was here like 11 years, 12 years. He's been going, having ICE hearings. He's been going back and forth to ICE hearings, all the way to the point where he's raising a family, to the point where he has a job, he's raising a family, got kids, 5-year-old kid and 2 others, I believe. No way that was a mistake. No way that was a mistake. That was a, let's see if we can get away with it. That was a test. I'm telling y'all, that was the let's see if we can get away with it test. Guarantee you. And this guy, that guy is as close to a Nazi as you ever gonna find. He is as close to one of Hitler's henchmen as you will ever see. I've never seen a guy so cold-blooded other than the rest of the people on the team. And you know what really gets me? What really gets me is when other people are in power, they will not prosecute these people. They will let these people slip into the cracks. Yeah, Charles, they knew exactly what they was doing. They knew what they was doing. Everybody on Trump's team right now should be in jail. They should be in jail from the last administration. Which reminds me, I'm going to have to check on some of those that's being prosecuted in the other cases to find out where that's going. Haven't heard anything about those cases. Yeah, man. They knew what they was doing. Absolutely. So, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. I can't wait to hear what the Supreme Court says about this. Because the court order, even under the Alien Enemies Act, even under that act, you have to give them due process. There has to be a process. You can't grab a guy and put him on an airplane out of the country to a concentration camp who knows where. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. So anyway, hey, I'm going to call it good right about there. I got on my soapbox again. In that damn soapbox. Anyway, appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. Say you can under this administration. Yeah, apparently you can, brother. Apparently, the only law, I guess this guy was telling the truth when he said he was the law. He said him and Pam Bondi is the law. That's it. So, on that note, everybody out there, be safe. I do appreciate you hanging with me again. I'll see you Wednesday. I gotta go do some digging. I wanna know about some of those other cases that we ain't heard nothing about since that first administration. So anyway, y'all take it easy.